When I got around like 10th and 11th grade, I was working all night. I was playing in the bars, and I'd get home like 1 or 2 in the morning. Getting to school on time became a challenge. And then that truancy officer, Miss Pruitt, I'll never forget her, man. She was the most awful woman you could imagine. She was really trying to throw me under the bus. They'd see me and they'd say, well, we're going to shave your head and we're going to send you down to the reformatory and you're going to have to go to school because you'll be incarcerated, Mr. King. More reasons just to leave and just stay gone. So when I was 17, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Talked to my dad about it. He was like, if you get your GED, I'm all in. He's like, you're going to play music, so just do it.
Welcome back to Spin Magazine's Lip Service. I'm with the amazing Marcus King. How are you?
Man, I'm good.
Great to be here. Great to have you here.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I finally got to do this, which is great. I know it's been a long time coming. I saw a great video you did the other night with your wife, and you guys sung Cadillac. And the story behind that is incredible. Tell me the story behind the song. We have a lot to get into. There's so much, but so much to unpack. But first, I want to talk about that song and kind of what it means to you and to her.
Yeah, Cadillac was one from the last record. It was, really just this combination of chords I'd kind of been messing around with and just kind of telling the story of, if you were going to go out one way or another, it was probably going to be my preferred method to go out. And that was all before I met her, She kind of gave me a little glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel, something to want to live for. So
in a way, I guess that song almost saved your life, right? With her and meeting her, it all changed the trajectory of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I met her after a show one night, and it just kind of changed my perspective. And it still took me a little while to figure it out. I felt like I could drink like a gentleman, right. And I wasn't really capable of that. So still figuring it out. But
how'd y'all meet?
She came to a show. We were doing a gig with Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, and we played in Charlotte. And she shared something on Instagram, and I was still up, like 5 in the morning, still going. And I noticed that this beautiful girl had shared something about me, and I, reached out, slid in her DMs, as the kids say.
Yeah. And she just wrote back, and the rest was history. That was it.
Yeah, but she had a real attitude about it.
Right.
'Cause she was getting ready to go to work. She was like, well, that's cool, but, you didn't play my favorite song. And, I said, well, if you come to the next gig, I'll play it. And she was like, oh, I'm going that way anyway, so I'll come by.
Amazing. And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
Amazing. Take me back to the beginning. You grew up in a musical family.
I did.
Did you feel like an obligation to sort of carry the torch, so to speak, just to keep the tradition going?
It didn't feel as obligatory as it just felt, I don't know, it's just kind of what we do. It's wonderful to have grown up in a family where music was considered like an honest way to make a living. It's like growing up in a family of mechanics or carpenters or plumbers or something like that. Because music can really be blue collar work if you're just looking to work for a living. So, nobody went to college, nobody had a degree in anything. We were all musicians, and we were a working class family. So you come to a certain age, that's an honest way. It's a viable means of making a living. So it was just kind of viewed that way. My grandfather played country and western music every weekend his whole life. My dad was in a number of bands. They had record deals and all the glitz and glamour of it. But later in life, he was also, playing in top 40 country bands and kind of doing the weekend warrior thing as well. So music was always just, it wasn't looked at as like a hobby or like something that you got to hang up at a certain age and go to college and grow up and get a real job, quote unquote. So it was great to grow up that way.
You get to play with so many incredible musicians. Like, who were your heroes growing up? I don't know if it was Stevie Ray Vaughan, Stevie Wonder. I'm sure you had a lot of heroes growing up, but who do you really identify?
Yeah.
Only Stevies.
Yeah,
Right.
Stevie Winwood, Stevie Wonder, Stevie Ray Vaughan. We were, we had a great a great childhood in that regard. All my dad's records. We had all the Allman Brothers Band, early Leonard Skinner, the Marshall Tucker Band, of course, and they represented somebody that came from Spartanburg, South Carolina, and we were in Greenville, which is, they're like 30, 40 minutes apart, and the Marshall Tucker Band was somebody who took the music of the upstate South Carolina and put it on a national and international level on a platform, and that's something that I was really inspired to do. So I had a really healthy diet of Southern rock music. My grandfather was a country and Western purist, as I said, so he had me on George Jones from a very young age, and I was just, Webb Pierce, George Jones, Hank Jr., Willie, Waylon, Merle, and my dad put me on BB and Freddie and Albert King, and then some other things I just kind of discovered on my own, like all the Motown stuff. I was obsessed with the Temptations when I was like 11. There was a straight-to-TV movie called The Temptations.
Sure.
And I was just really captivated by that film, and I loved David Ruffin's voice. And whatever I could do to emulate David Ruffin or Aretha Franklin's voice on the guitar, that's what I wanted to do, because I didn't want to sound like every other guitar player that wanted to be Stevie Ray Vaughan. So it was in listening to those singers that it kind of inspired me to start singing in my own right. So when I started singing, that was kind of the sound I wanted to find.
A lot of people don't know you started as a drummer, which I'm a drummer too.
Yeah, I did.
Which people I don't think know that. But did you find it like inevitable that you would just pick up the guitar like eventually?
Well, the guitar was always there, Like I think the guitar is the first thing that I really messed around with because they were all over the house because my dad played and my grandfather. So it was going to be guitar or fiddle, like regardless. And the drums were the thing that we didn't have around the house. So we had the bass guitar, and I was kind of messing around with everything, and the drums were the thing that I couldn't quite get to. So my dad brought a set of drums home for me when I was 4 years old, and I just fell deeply in love with the drums, and I was really obsessed with even until I was like 13 and 14, I was shedding like David Garibaldi.
Amazing.
And I was really into it. But the guitar always kind of took the front seat. And I still love playing drums. I just don't do it very often anymore.
Your grandfather would play guitar, you played drums. You had this sort of pseudo band at a young age with him, right?
Yeah, well, my grandfather had a band, the Southern Brothers Band, and that was my uncle on bass, my other uncle on guitar, and my dad, whenever he was home off the road, he played with them. And then they would be the King Family Review. So it was kind of like the Traveling McCurrys or the Del McCurry Band. It was kind of like that kind of vibe. And from my dad, I played guitar in my dad's band. Unless his drummer couldn't make it, then I'd play drums or I'd play bass. We'd work pretty steadily. And then around the time of 13 or 14, I started my own thing and started traveling.
You start singing at around 13 or 14. I think you experienced a little bit of trauma around then, which led to some songwriting. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about that trauma at such a young age and kind of how that affected your writing.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I actually had a dream about her last night, and it was a girl, like the first girl that I was really taken with when I was like 13 years old. Her name was Hallie, and I loved her whole family. Her whole family, they were really great. Go over there and smoke a little grass and hang out, and she was just this great girl, really great spirit, and she died in a car accident, and that really fucked me up pretty good because I'd already experienced a lot of abandonment and a lot of loss and a lot of heartache at a young age. So when that happened, it really kind of just sunk me down deeper into this depression I didn't know how to really articulate. And the guitar had always kind of been an escape for me, and it wasn't really doing it anymore. So I needed something else to kind of get me out of that funk that I was in. So
at that point you go through a lot, right? Your mom, I think, left at like 5 years old too, right?
Yeah, when I was like 4 or 5, my mom split, and we reconnected later. And she'll probably watch this, so hey, Mom. But we stay in touch now. But at a young age, those formative years, your mother leaving it's kind of tough. But yeah, that's when I started singing and writing when I was like 13.
What do you remember from those early years, just the formative years?
I just remember hurting all the time, just being sad all the time, and not really understanding it. If that's all you really know, then you don't really understand any other way. So.
And you just wanted to put it into song because you felt like I need to channel this energy and this almost depression, I guess, right, at such a young age.
Yeah, I think I'd always kind of been drawn to music, or even like the evangelical type, Pentecostal ministers that I'd see at a young age. I was inspired by them and the hope and the conviction that they had and their faith. I was inspired by anybody that could get a crowd to move and to respond, and I just wanted some of that. So performing live, that was my medicine, really. And then when all that got taken away, like during the pandemic, I think a lot of us had to take that opportunity to look inward.
Sure.
If you rely solely on like the approval of hundreds and thousands of people every night, and that's kind of what keeps you going. When that goes away, you got to figure something else out. Definitely. And that's when you got to do some real healing.
How important was faith to you growing up? Because I know you grew up in the church, and you mentioned just growing up all around it.
I think there was. I like the idea that I grew up in a religious household, just because it wasn't uber strict, but it kind of gave me a nice base of just like moral fundamentals. I think you kind of grow up with a good, strong sense of right and wrong. A lot of that, I think, is natural as a human. It's not right to kill somebody, obviously, but yeah, just growing up with those early childhood years, being in the church, and getting those basic morals. So I'm thankful for that.
Were your parents sort of supportive of the fact that you wanted to go into music, or they saw the road ahead as being tough, having lived it a lot, or were they, pushing you towards that in a way?
My dad was always really supportive. He never pushed me into anything. He just, like when I wanted to drop out of high school, I really struggled in high school. Like I had, truancy officers. Like the way it all really kind of came about was like my sister, she skipped like 85 consecutive days, and she was 2 years older than me. So my dad would drop Holly off at high school, and then he'd drop me off at middle school, and she'd go in the front door and out the back and into her buddy's car and then go wherever she was going. And so when they finally that caught up to her in the Anderson School District, they kind of approached it like it's the parents' responsibility, and it's under this assumption that if one child is truant, then any other child within that district is also truant. So they make the whole lot of you sign this agreement that you won't miss more than a day, and if you do miss a day, you have to have a doctor's excuse. And that kind of hung over my head, and I was in 8th grade at the time. So when I got around like 10th and 11th grade, driving myself to school, but I was working all night. I was playing in the bars, and I'd get home like 1 or 2 in the morning, and waking up kind of became a challenge. Getting to school on time became a challenge. And then that truancy officer, Miss Pruitt, I'll never forget her, man. She was the most awful woman you could imagine. And she had one eye that would look over here and one eye that would look at you. And I remember like she was really trying to throw me under the bus. They'd see me and they'd say, well, we're going to shave your head and we're going to send you down to the reformatory. We're going to send you down to, Columbia, South Carolina, and you're going to have to go to school because you'll be incarcerated, Mr. King. I'm like, I was late. I'm sorry. I'll do better.
How old were you at this point? Were you
like 16?
I was going to say about 16.
Yeah. And I had a job at the pizza place, Mellow Mushroom, and I had my gigs every night. So I was working really hard, and I'd reconnected with my mother at that time. And, I was trying to help her out with bills and stuff, and I was just trying to be supportive. I think the youngest sibling usually kind of takes on a role of like trying to fix everything. And that's kind of where I was at with it. And then, you know, more loss, more trauma, and just more reasons just to leave and just stay gone. So when I was 17, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Talked to my dad about it. He was like, if you get your GED, I'm all in. He's like, you're going to play music, so just do it. And I went in and I was like, I'm dropping out of this school. And they're like, well, you're going to end up in prison. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I was like, okay, I'm willing to take that chance because y'all hate me. I hate you. I'm going to go. That school was like, and the only saving grace for me in high school was I went to this like performing arts academy in the afternoon, and I studied jazz theory there. And it wasn't in my school district, so my dad deeded me part of his property in Greenville. So I was, on paper, I was a Greenville County taxpayer, so I was able to go to this performing arts school without having to pay any money because we didn't have any money. We were broke as shit. So being able to go there and study with my instructor, Steve Watson, he was a bad dude, man. And he was originally from Greenville, and he was in L.A. for all of the late 70s and 80s. And he was like a top-drawer session guitar player. He played with the Brecker Brothers. He played, he played like the guitar parts on Hill Street Blues and the A-Team. He was in Dolly Parton's band for a time. And then he came back to Greenville in the 90s to raise his daughters. So he was the jazz instructor at that school. And he really wanted me to stay. And he was trying to convince me to stay for my senior year and continue to get more education in the music theory side of things. And that almost convinced me to stay, but I was ready to flew the coop, you know. And I still see Steve every now and again. He comes out to shows and jams with us.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We had so many artists on the show, like Jordan Davis, who actually called you his favorite artist in the world right now. I think you work with him a little bit, right?
Yeah, man, I love Jordan. He's so kind to say the things that he does and to involve me. He's a great example. And I've said this to Luke Combs. I said it to Eric Church, Chris Stapleton, Cody Johnson, Zach Brown, all these country artists that have embraced me and my band. I'm like, I'm thankful to you guys because you guys are the only way that we're going to get in front of the country audience. Because, up until now, like, they're not playing us on country radio.
Right.
So, and they're starting to now, but it's really like them kind of co-signing what I do has been tremendously helpful, and it means the world to me just to feel included and to feel wanted, actually. And I've always kind of been the black sheep in Nashville, but Nashville's a lot like high school, and I never sat at one table or another in the cafeteria. It was always, I sat with everybody that smoked pot anyway.
Right. It's very cliquish there, you mean?
Yeah,
just in terms of you have the country faction, you have the blues faction, right?
Yeah, but I think everybody's kind of on their own journey in Nashville, but there are all these subgenres, and I feel like what I do it's more country than other things.
I don't know why you're touching so many different genres, right? And Americana is something, yourself, Billy Strings, there's a lot of artists now that are sort of bringing it into the mainstream. What do you think is sort of the most understood about Americana in a way? Because it is a genre that's coming to the forefront now, and it was never really mainstream.
Yeah, it's funny. Americana, I think it kind of represents that, like, that really roots traditional origin of what would become country music. So it's funny that it's kind of become this like catch-all for all the bands that they don't know what to do with. And before that, it was jam bands. And when we were coming up, like, the jam scene was really open to us. And, I'd be on bills, like, on jam crews with, like, Medeski, Martin, and Wood and John Schofield. And, like, I feel like, or like George Porter Jr. from the Meters. And you'd have all these groups that would kind of end up in this jam category because they didn't know where else to go.
Right.
And then it kind of became like you have to play this one certain kind of jam, or like it became difficult for us because we'd have a record label saying, we're pushing this single, you got to play it every night. And then the tapers would come out and they'd, berate us, because at that point, you have a backstage, but like your friends are fans, and then your fans are friends.
Right.
And then the tapers are coming back and they're kind of, berating you for playing the same song 2 nights in a row. Right. And I'm like, this is really weird. And I felt, there was a lot of stress to like try to fit in to that jam community. And I'm like, I feel like we've kind of, gotten past the point of this fluidity and this freedom of jam. If I feel, pressured to do it one certain way, if I don't want to play a 20-minute guitar solo, are you gonna not like me? Right. What's the deal here? And I didn't really feel at home there anymore. And I do now. I mean, things have changed a little bit, but
to your point, there's so many different genres of music now, right? There's trap, electronica, DJ. I mean, there's a million subcategories. Did you find it important just to keep guitar music alive? Was that something that was super important to you, to keep it going, keep it alive? Because, there's a lot of great artists now, but there are a million subgenres, as we spoke about.
Well, I think guitar music is something that I wanted to approach with more integrity. I didn't want it to be so niche and so like guitar centric. Just kind of allow the guitar to speak for itself, which is like all my favorite bands were like that. The Allman Brothers Band, they were guitar heavy, they were guitar forward, but they weren't like, this is what we do and it's all about guitar. And
it was about the songs too.
Yeah.
Tell me about 18 years old playing in LA. I think you were at like Norm's, and then you got recognized, and sort of maybe that was the first moment that you realized, hey, this is something, this is my path, this is where it's happening, like stepping into the world of LA, which could be a very strange world in itself, right?
It was an interesting time, I was 18, first time I went to California. Me and my drummer went out there to cut this record. We had a friend who was tapped into like the reggae community. And he had been working at this studio in just south of like San Diego, sort of. And this band, like this guy Larry, had a house because his mother had like taken some vaccine or some kind of experimental thing, and she ended up, paralyzed from the waist down. Wow. And they got this crazy settlement, and then they had this crazy big house. And they had a grow operation, and this was before it was recreationally legal in California. So they had this grow operation for medicinal marijuana, and they had a studio upstairs. And actually, all the gear was on loan from Garrett G-Love in Philadelphia. Yeah. So all the cases said G-Love and Special Sauce, and we would later become friends. But they had this girl that was engineering the record, this girl named Shelby, and she was 28, I was 18. But like we just really fell for each other. So I ended up going out there a lot more and hanging out with her. And her sister lived in LA. So we drove up to LA, and I'd heard about Norman's Rare Guitars from Spinal Tap and various other, outlets. And I wanted to go there. And she's like, this is LA, like just play and sing and they'll have to say something. And I was raised to like never be showboaty like that. Yeah. So I was really uncomfortable to just like play in the hopes that someone would listen. But she convinced me to do it, and they did. They took notice, and they asked me if they could film me for their YouTube channel, and I was like, sure. And then that ended up going like mega viral, and it caught the attention of some really influential people, and that's kind of how my first record deal came to be. And I started working with Warren Haynes quasi as a result of that. It's just funny when when I say all this out loud, it's interesting.
Almost surreal in a sense, right?
Yeah, the path that I took to get where I'm at is pretty funny.
You eventually formed the Marcus King Band. I think now you're back together after like 7 years, I think it's been. Yeah. But what was the goal initially with the Marcus King Band? And what was the first moment you feel like you really were getting somewhere with this?
I always wanted a group, you know, because growing up I was alone a lot. And my sister and I were close, but she kind of had her own journey, and she didn't want her little brother tagging along. And,
was she in music?
No. Early on she was. She played saxophone, but she got out of it. And, you know, she kind of had her friends, and she didn't want me around. Right. Little brother tagging along. You know, she had her own journey to be on, and we're very close now. With the Marcus King Band, I wanted to have brothers like I'd never had before. I wanted to have a community. But, you know, there was a lot of just differing personalities. And there was also pressure from, like, management, labels, what have you, because I'm the sole songwriter, I'm the singer, I'm the front man of this group, but I really wanted it to be a band, and it just got really kind of muddy, you know? And around the time we did Carolina Confessions, it just kind of fell apart, you know? Just wrong personalities in the group.
And pressures from the label in what sense? Just different singles that they wanted? You just weren't seeing eye to eye with them in a sense? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess kind of the trajectory, the way it happened was like, I'll go back. I was playing a gig with my band, because it was always the Marcus King Band. And we had the horn section and all that. And I got a call from my manager at the time, and she said, Dan Auerbach wants you to come to Nashville. So I said, cancel my flight and send me to Nashville right now. So I went to Nashville, and me and Dan started writing. And the first song we wrote together, one of the first songs was called How Long? And that ended up on Carolina Confessions. But we were going to record together, but he wanted it to be all of his guys. And I was like, well, no, I really need my band. You know, I was still really passionate about this idea. So we ended up pivoting, and we went and worked with Dave Cobb at RCA. And in that experience, you know, we had certain guys in the band who made that project really difficult to get through. And they definitely gave Dave a hard time. I haven't worked with Dave since that project. I don't know if that's any indication as to how difficult it was to get through it.
But with El Dorado, you did get a Grammy nod, which is amazing. Yeah. So obviously it worked out very well.
Yeah, because after that I went back to Dan, and I was like, I think I'm ready to try it your way, because that last experience was pretty frustrating. And that for the first time I kind of saw what Dan's point was that he had these seasoned professionals, and he had Bobby Wood and Gene Chrisman, and they played on Son of a Preacher Man. They played on Suspicious Minds. He had, Billy Sanford, who wrote the riff for Pretty Woman. There's like 3 or 4 guys that claim to have written that, but Billy, I believe. And, Dave Rowe, who was Jerry Reed's bass player and son-in-law. I mean, it was just incredible to work with those guys, and I did get a Grammy nomination for that record. And
but how did Dan's process differ than Dave's? Because they were different producers, obviously.
Well, I think Dave was trying to lean into the band aspect of it, but he was trying to teach us about, like, song form and song structure. And the guys were more like, I mean, they were more interested in, like, the musicality of it. And Dave was trying to help us be more, I don't know.
Polished in a sense?
Yeah. Polished. He wanted us to have clear singles. He wanted us to have clear structure, which, we ended up kind of developing in that time, which I'm thankful for. But some of the band members weren't really feeling that. And, they were kind of jazzers in a sense.
And Dave does a lot of very polished rock records where Dan is just in it. He's a performer. But talk to me about working with Rick. Let's kind of get up to like the Rick Rubin sessions that you did. I mean, obviously he had a big role in sort of pushing you in a way, right? And pushing you creatively, like just in a sense that you probably weren't pushed before. So how do you feel like working with him changed your process?
Well, I was actually in New York the first time I heard from Rick. This was the fall of 2019, and a few months prior, I'd done my Grand Ole Opry debut, and Rick saw the performance I did of my song "Goodbye Carolina" on the Grand Ole Opry, and he gave me a call, and he's like, "Who are you? I want to get to know you. Let's get together." And I ended up going out to Malibu and hanging out with him. And we just hit it off, because he's such a special dude, and he's still such a fan of music. And we just instantaneously just kind of fell for each other creatively. So we started working together, and then the pandemic kind of occurred during that. And during that time, I was just kind of out there writing, and I would write for like 6 months, and he wouldn't want any of it, And he just kind of helped me unlearn some bad behaviors as far as like writing for the audience or writing for the label, trying to write a hit, quote, end quote.
It's interesting. He doesn't play an instrument. It's really all about a vibe check with Rick.
Yeah.
Right? So ultimately, you keep playing him songs, and he's like, none of it works for me. I don't feel it. But yet he couldn't tell you specifically what it was, maybe because he's not like, change this chord, think you need to sing differently here. It was really about just the vibe of the songs weren't there for him.
He just wanted that honesty. He wanted some truth based in like what he and I had talked about so much, which was mental health and how it plays a role in my creative process. So the first song I wrote that really, got his attention was a song called Bipolar Love. And that kind of created the theme for that record, which would be mood swings. And again, he had his own kind of process with different players, and he wanted specific people on the record. And the initial idea was for Chris Dave and Corey Henry to come in, and we were going to just play and then take all that and sample it up and chop it up like a hip-hop record and create what would be the record. And in some instances we did that. We sampled Chris's drum parts for other things, but it didn't quite have the full effect that we were going for. But it was a very different way of trying to work. But again, that's why there were 3 solo records, because I just thought that would be less confusing for the listener, because my drummer's not on it, so it's not a Marcus King Band record. But ended up being more confusing.
Well, you mentioned mental health. Let's touch on that for a minute. How has songwriting been therapy for you in a way, right? Especially working with Rick, because you said that he kind of pushed you to open up about that and talk about that more.
Yeah. No, he definitely did. He kind of encouraged me to let my mental health be a writing partner in a way, and to just be more open about it, and just to use less metaphor and just be more direct about what I was going through.
Is there times that you would like self-medicate to get through it, and obviously now you look at life differently?
Oh yeah, I went through all the self-medication, and it's interesting coming to New York City sober. It's like seeing an old friend.
Looking at it through different glasses now, right? Just a whole different world. Because before you'd come here and you just would let loose for days, or
hell yeah,
yeah. So what would happen when you would come here before? What would go down?
I mean, there's, and I think especially like pre-pandemic, there was always kind of places to go at all hours of the night.
Yeah.
And just, finish the night at like 7:30 in the morning on a balcony, like just, blowing down lines off the side of like this, 52-story building. It was fun. I had a great time.
But at a certain point that catches up with you, obviously.
Yeah.
And it has to affect the way your process works, right? Is it different to approach songs now sober and not self-medicated in a way?
Yeah, I mean, I could never write when I was fucked up.
Yeah.
But that come down, and I think there's a lot of artists that garner inspiration from that come down, like Sunday morning coming down. There's an emotion there unlike any other. That's that your body's depleted of serotonin, all the things you need to be happy or functioning. That's inspiring. But finding inspiration from other places in life, that's kind of the journey that I've been on the past few years. And I'm thankful for those days, my dad always told me, he said, don't try cocaine because you'll love it. And he was right. And I really loved it, and I had a relationship with it for a while. And then it just kind of got out of hand, you know. It wasn't something that I could do casually anymore. And
I never do drugs, but I feel like microdosing is the one thing that I'll do from time to time because it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. It's mushrooms, obviously. But do you feel like that's something that you can delve a little bit into? You've spoken about that before.
Absolutely. That's helped me a great deal with my anxiety, and which I think that's something that I've dealt with my whole life is anxiety and depression and mood swings, as it were. But I microdosed during the time making this record in Macon, Georgia, and it really, because I was just looking for any way to open myself up as much as possible, to really have my antennas up and to be a vessel, just to channel whatever it was up here, you know, any of the vibe that I could find in the room that I could channel through me. And, you know, microdosing is really a helpful tool for that.
And some of the greatest records come about by just, you know, mind-altering things. But if there's a way to do it safely, and obviously it's not cocaine, it's definitely better. Do you feel like you struggle sometimes with fame? Is it hard for you? You're talking about mental health again. Is it hard sometimes just to cope with what's happened to you this last 5-10 years when you look at your life and where it's gone?
I don't know, man.
Because it's a wild ride, right? I mean, it's not, like you said, at first you just went into Norm's Guitars thinking, let me just play this, maybe someone will pay attention. And then now it's like the Grand Ole Opry and your Grammys and everything. It's definitely been a wild ride, I would imagine.
It's been a fun one. It's been an interesting ride. I've met a lot of people, lost a lot of people, but I'm just really thankful, you know. And my wife really kind of put everything into perspective at that time when I needed it most. I met her the day after I quit doing hard drugs. And I quit doing hard drugs because I ran out. I ran out of hard drugs, and I was in Raleigh, or I was in Charlotte, and they had a physician come in and check me out. And I was just, you know, going through, you know, minor withdrawals, symptoms and stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm really fucking done doing this shit. I do not want to feel like this anymore. And I was having trouble singing and stuff. You know, I had to get a steroid shot just to be able to have the energy to go out and perform. And I was like, this ain't it, you know. Because that's the only thing I like in life is performing.
Yeah.
And now I can't do that. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? So I just decidedly I was done doing that. And then meeting her the next night was really what just kind of gave me something to live for. And she's a hard ass, you know. She's 100 pounds of just dynamite. And she really helped whip my ass into shape, and I needed that. And
in a way, it was almost like divine intervention because you were, like you said, you were at, you know, the last day of possibly you got to change your life, and you met her, and it all changed for you. So I guess everything happens for a reason. Yeah, man, it definitely does. And I'm a lot happier with things right now. And some nights it's hard, you know. Like last night, I was like, I'm just gonna go to bed. You know, it's 8:30. I'm going to bed. It's that namaste stuff that you take that I need to get on.
Yeah, I took that, whatever this stuff is that my doctor gave me. It's all natural, I guess, but it's called namaste in bed. And yeah.
I need that because I told you I never sleep more than like 5 or 6 hours. But
5 or 6 hours is really what I prefer because I slept like 13 hours last night. I feel crazy.
Amazing. Well, talk to me about the new record, Darling Blue. It's fairly new at this point. Rejoining the Marcus King Band after like 7 years. Obviously, it feels great. Talk to me about the record, the process. There's a bunch of collaborators on the record, so I want to get into all that. Yeah. Well, so the last Marcus King Band record, the engineer on that album was Eddie Spear. And he still worked with Dave Cobb at the time. And he would fill in whenever Dave couldn't make it into the studio. And we all just really loved Eddie and his energy and his openness to creativity and just trying different things. So he was an obvious choice when it came time to decide who I was going to work with. And we went down and scouted the location together down in Macon, Georgia. And obviously, I mean, this is a studio, Capricorn Studios. It's where the Allman Brothers really first came together. Otis Redding worked in that room, the Marshall Tucker Band, Charlie Daniels.
there was so much energy still in the room because they kind of left the A room pretty much untouched. The rest of the studio was gutted and and completely redone, but the A room was pretty, untouched.
Do you feel like an aura when you walk in there, and you feel sort of something like a spirit of what was going on there before?
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can feel the energy in the room.
So nothing's touched from back. I mean, everything's exactly the way it was back in the 70s.
The part that we wanted,
yeah,
which was the A room, and we brought other gear down because we wanted to pull all the sound out of that room that we could, and we just set up in the A room and we captured everything that we wanted to. And then came time for the collaborators. I mean, we had Brent Hines came down and played on a song that'll be on the deluxe release, a song called Red Door Blues. And then we did some sessions in Nashville, and in those sessions, just finishing the record. Because I always say, working with a label is kind of like, hey, I put all these songs together for you, and they're like, man, these are so great. Can we set up some more writing dates so you can?
So great. What else do you have?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we did that 2 or 3 times, and in that process, it was just easier to finish the record in Nashville. So the last round of sessions we did at Blackbird in Nashville, and we recorded Heartlands there, and we recorded Closer to Someone or Someone Else with Jesse Wells. And in that instance, that's the first time Jesse and I met. It's the first time he co-wrote with anybody, but we met at 10:30. We wrote at 11, and then the band came in and we recorded it together at 1, and then I think his flight took off at 3.
Amazing.
So, farm to table method.
In a way, it's sort of like a homecoming with Blue Ridge Mountains, right? In a way, this feels like a homecoming for you, this record?
Yeah, and that's what I really wanted for it. I wanted to feel at home. And that's kind of the meaning behind the record, is just the at-home feeling that I get from being in the Blue Ridge Mountains, but also that feeling that I get, when I'm with the one that I love and the way that she makes me feel, and that safety and reassurance, the same way that I feel when I'm at home.
Mm. You work with so many great artists on this record, Noah Cyrus, Billy Strings. Whose process kind of really surprised you when you were working with them, other than what we just spoke about?
Well, I wasn't in the room when Jamie recorded, but the way Jamie records is always really interesting because he's very, he's going to do things the Jamie Johnson way always, and Eddie was kind of telling me a little bit about it, and Jamie, he doesn't really take direction from the producer. He does things how he wants to do them, and I'm really glad he landed on how it sounds on the record. Jamie's a dear friend. He actually officiated my wedding.
Amazing.
Everybody on this record, we didn't want any collaborators to come on because we wanted their name on the record. We just wanted people that I feel inspired by,
But with all those voices, how do you make sure it still sounds like a Marcus King record? Because so many great collaborators on the record.
Well, that's always going to happen.
Right. Just because of yourself.
We're really bad at sounding like anybody else.
Right. Talk to me about Honky Tonk Hell and kind of what that deals with. It deals with addiction relapse.
Yeah. Well, those lyrics kind of came about from in my journey, which I hate it when people say that, but my journey with sobriety has been I might fall off the wagon tonight, and that's okay. Well, it wouldn't be okay, but I guess AA didn't really work for me. I didn't really dig that, and we talk about that in that song I wrote with Jesse Wells, because he and I were kind of on the same page with sobriety. But AA didn't really work for me, and in Honky Tonk Hell I talk about if I fall off the wagon, you would catch my fall. Maybe I'll go back to doing that voodoo that I do so well, which is, I took that line directly from Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, great film.
And we're just talking about if I fall off the wagon, that's okay, because one thing they do talk about in sobriety in AA is one day at a time, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. I just get a little nervous if I think about never drinking again or never doing drugs again, I get uneasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is maybe the wrong way to think about it, but I enjoyed it. You know, it was not a sustainable way of living for me, but I had a lot of good times. They weren't all bad times.
Was there sort of one rock bottom moment that happened to you where you're like, this is what's making me change my ways?
I think I don't think rock bottom happens for everybody. I mean, I had a hell of a collection of rock middle.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean, just wanting to end my life and wanting to do it by overindulging in drugs and alcohol, I'd say would be the most rock bottom. But
and the fact that you couldn't sing, you needed a steroid shot just to get out there, right? Because that's really what you love. It's a 23 hours off stage that you have to figure out what to do with yourself,
right?
Not the 1 hour on stage. Do you feel like there's sort of a renaissance in a way and sort of honest, soulful rock and roll these days? Because we spoke about it going into the mainstream and sort of resurgence of this. So do you feel like in a way there is a renaissance?
I'd say so. It feels like there's a renaissance happening in just honest rock and roll, and that's kind of happening in the country field. I feel like, you know, the Allman Brothers Band used to sell out Dodger Stadium, and I think Southern rock has the power to do that again. You know, there's people like Zach Bryan who are kind of banging the drum for just like good, honest, like storytelling American music. That are kind of paving the way for folks like myself just to do things
Lainey Wilson,
our
right?
own way. Lainey's amazing.
Yeah.
Lainey does things her own way. I love to see it.
Talk to me about this tour coming up. You excited about it?
Oh,
Kicking
yeah.
off soon, right?
I love being on the road.
Yeah.
And we're out right now with Eric Church, doing some dates with Cody Johnson. A lot of headline dates. I think next year is going to be really when the governor comes off and we really hit it.
Amazing. You mentioned Blazing Saddles. I heard a story that you were sort of like, there was films showing while you were making this record, old classic movies.
Yeah.
So what were those movies that you were watching when you were making this record, besides Blazing Saddles?
Yeah, so we had a projector screen and we'd play like Easy Rider, and we played Midnight Cowboy. We played Big Lebowski, of course.
Amazing.
Just any films that just, or we played, because, you know, before I started writing for the record, Eddie suggested that I listen to, I listened to the audiobook for East of Eden by John Steinbeck. So we played that with James Dean, and we played Giant with James Dean. Just like anything that was like visually stimulating and just like inspiring to me that was captured on film. And Blazing Saddles was one of the films we played. Just old cowboy films.
Did they have a hand lyrically in what you were writing at the time, or?
Well, just Blazing Saddles did on that Honky Tonk Hell lyric, but I mean, it just kind of inspired the overall approach. We just wanted to be inundated with things that inspired us.
Yeah.
You know?
Anybody on your bucket list that you need to work with that you haven't worked with yet? Because so many great collaborators on this record, as I mentioned.
Well,
let's put it out there in the universe, right? You never know.
I mean, Zach Bryan reached out before about doing something, and then he kind of ghosted me. So,
Zach, if you're listening,
call me back sometime.
It's weird if they reach out and then they ghost you. Like, why bother reaching out?
I don't know. I really kind of felt,
neglected in a
jilted.
way. Right? Yeah. Who else reached out like that? Anyone strange that you're like, this person totally like hit me up and that kind of surprised you?
Noah Kahan did that. He reached out to me before.
Ghosted too, or
he ghosted me as well.
Ghosted too. Is this a trend? Is this like a?
It's kind of a trend. I don't know. These singer songwriters reach out and then they're like,
tell them how much they love you, and then ghost you.
Yeah, but I've run into Post Malone quite a bit, around Nashville and stuff, and we've got a lot of mutual friends and a lot of inspiring collaborators that we both work with. I think he and I could do something cool.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah. I really love Sabrina Carpenter's new record, and I'm going to see her at her Grand Ole Opry debut this coming week. So I'm really excited for her.
Yeah.
And I really love Jack Antonoff's production style.
Sure.
And what he captured with this Sabrina record really has, it's really like Greg Fillingane's Steve Lukather coded. It feels really like Quincy, Michael Jackson era.
Sure.
It feels really cool. So I don't know, I feel like I could do something cool in that vein. But I'm open to any and all collaborations. I just love music, and I love anybody who's honest in their music or their production style or their approach to music, which is just the honest love of it, of the craft. So I don't know. We'll see if Zach Bryan calls me back.
So definitely get back to Marcus. Let's talk about your top 5 living guitarists, Marcus. Because I know there's always a hard thing. There's so many great guitar players. People consider you one of them. So if you had to name your top 5 living guitarists, starting with number 5, who would that be?
Oh, man, no. Number 5. All right. Can I do it in no particular order?
Sure.
That would be better for me.
do that. That's okay.
All right. Jimmy Herring would be on the list. Jimmy Herring was in Aquarium Rescue Unit. You gotta listen to Aquarium Rescue Unit. You gotta learn about Colonel Bruce Hampton and his style of music, which was just batshit crazy, but it was so brilliant. He was really our Southern Frank Zappa. So listen to Aquarium Rescue Unit. That's where O'Teal Burbridge got his start. You know, the guy from Dead and Company.
Sure.
Who else would be on that list?
I would say number 4, but no particular order. But
No particular order?
Just to give it some structure here. You know?
Yeah, just some structure.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Herring, you got to listen to him. He's also in Widespread Panic. I'm stalling.
It's okay. It's not live, so we got the editing. It's all good.
I'd say John Scofield would be on that list. John Scofield is one of the most inventive and creative guitar players. My favorite era of John Scofield is going to be Billy Cobham, George Duke Band, and that's an incredible band. Billy Cobham, George Duke, Alfonso Johnson, Scofield playing some just incredibly inventive stuff. And we'll say number 3, just for the sake of structure. Number 3, I'd have to go with, you got to go with Derek Trucks.
Sure.
I mean, he's a good friend, and he's an inspiring player because, you know, Jeff Sipe, who was also in Aquarium Rescue Unit, he actually told Derek, when he was like 16, he taught Derek about Ali Akbar Khan, which was, he was a student of, he and Ravi Shankar both had the same instructor in India, which was Ravi's dad. And Ali Akbar Khan played sarod, which is similar to like a slide guitar. It's a traditional Indian instrument. And Derek was really inspired by Ali Akbar Khan, studied with him in San Francisco, if I remember that correctly. So Derek took the slide guitar and he kind of recreated what it means to play slide guitar, and he took inspiration from all these outside of the box kind of approaches, which I think makes him one of the best of our generation and generations to come. So Derek, you're at number 3 there.
We're almost at number 1, but we got 2 more.
We're getting close.
We're getting close.
Let's see. You're making me sweat.
The people that you are completely inspired by, right?
Yeah, Blake Mills. Blake Mills is such a fine producer, but as a guitar player, he's super inventive and creative in the way that he plays, and he's got a tremendous amount of restraint. And I love the way that he writes. I like the way that he thinks. That's somebody I'd really love to collaborate with. Love Blake's playing. And now we've come to number 1. Fuck.
You got this. Well, again, for Marcus King, who's the guy that you go to that you're like, this is who I'm looking at all the time. I'm inspired by this person or the girl, whoever.
As long as Eric Clapton's still living and breathing, I think he'll be number 1. So he's been a good friend to me and a great mentor, and he's always been very kind to me. And his playing has taken so many different. He's changed the course of music, you know, single-handedly, multiple times, and you got to give it up for Clapton every time. I got to see him just recently, and the dude's like 80 years old, and He played his ass off.
Incredible.
In Nashville. So,
You a big fan of Cream growing up?
oh hell yeah.
Yeah. How could you not be, right?
Cream, Blind Faith, Derek and the Dominoes. I mean, the dude really covered some ground.
Well, we'll put him in number one. Eric
Let's do
Clapton.
it. Yeah.
There you go. And as I mentioned, Jordan Davis was on the show, and he actually said you were his top favorite artist in the world right now.
Wow.
So if you had to name your top 5 new country or roots or Americana artists right now, you know, let's give it up for your picks, Marcus, starting in no particular order.
Yeah.
Number 5.
I really love Maddie Cunningham. She's great.
And why, I guess, just...
Well, I mean, I like her playing style. It's really unique. It's really different. She reminds me a lot of Margaret Glaspie, the way that she plays. Lainey Wilson's one of my favorite people of all time. I just think she is incredible writer, incredible singer. I also got to go back and say, you know, this adds a 6th guitar player, but Brent Hines is one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and we just lost him. So that's also outside of the guidelines, but he was also always outside of the guidelines.
Yeah.
So Brent Hines, one of my favorite guitar players of all time. But top 5 favorite. So we said Maddie Cunningham.
Yeah, Lainey Wilson.
We said Lainey Wilson. I'm going to throw Jordan Davis on there.
Yeah.
Just because I really love the way he writes, the way he thinks. He's such an electric performer.
Great guy.
Great guy.
I can say that only because we
Yeah.
had him in the chair not long ago. So
Yeah, he and his people, they're just very good to me. Jesse Wells, he's going to be incredibly important to the future of music, I feel like. Who else? We got one more. There's a lot riding on this. You guys turn up the heat in here, too. This is like an interrogation. I'll tell
Yeah.
you whatever you want to know.
I got a leather jacket, but I'm not wearing it. But
Let's see.
well, it's just your top new artist that you feel kind of is carrying the flag after yourself, right? It could be Sabrina Carpenter. I don't want to put any thoughts in your head, so just I'll step off to the side. But it's whoever that you're inspired by, honestly.
I'll say Caitlin Butts. Yeah.
Caitlin
Yeah.
Butts.
Caitlin Butts, she's fantastic performer, songwriter, singer. And she's out of Nashville. She's just, she's great. And her husband's in a band called Flatland Cavalry, who I love. Brent Cobb is somebody who I think he's not up and coming, but he's incredible. Charlie Crockett's always great, incredible live performer.
I think we're going to be at 10 soon.
Yeah, I know. I think it's the structure of top 5 that made me uncomfortable.
Spills out of you. There
Yeah.
you go. Now we're at 10.
Yeah.
Marcus King's top 10 artists to watch. Definitely. Marcus, this is a pleasure. We'll have to do this again. Check Marcus out on tour. Get the new record. It's pretty new at this point.
Yeah.
Just came out. So pleasure to having you here.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.